I think when we're sitting on this set right now, we are living in a freaking bubble.
No doubt. I'm not arguing with you.
Let's go to West Dallas, just down the street here, and see kids whose grandmothers live with them who are diabetics and they can't get out of the bed and they're living in a shanty. Like that's what I'm saying. We are privileged, and there's a number of us that are privileged, a large percent of this country that is privileged to do whatever they want to do. My problem is, like, if I'm in California and these mandates are coming down and I just don't have the resources, I'm just going to have to suffer through this.
Taking care of his body.
That's okay. We're going to go through gray areas, but I'm just saying.
Gray areas. You just made a scenario of hey, two dudes walk in. There's one bed left. Who do you serve?
People.
There's plenty of beds left.
Equal people. Two bins walk in. One bin has not gotten vaccinated. The other bin has gotten vaccinated.
That's same
dude walks in.
It's.
That's going to be up to
that's a call that a doctor has got to make. And if I've got to say no to somebody, and I've got to say, hey, you can't go here, but you've got to go to this other hospital, because look, we've made this huge deal about not enough beds. No, we have enough beds. Mm-hmm. We have enough capacity. We just don't want to put more people in to serve. There's room in the hospitals, but the COVID units are this. Mm-hmm. We only have these many beds. We're putting a limit on the beds. Like, no, because guess what? The rest of the hospital, you haven't let anybody else in the rest of the hospital because we're shutting everything down. Well, so to say a gray area, look, if you've gotten vaccinated or not, look, that was your choice. You've got the consequences, and you made a choice, and you're still here. Like, you've got to make a judgment call at that point as a doctor, right? That's where training is like, okay, hey, look, if I have to choose between one of you, we're going to draw straws.
It ain't gonna be that way.
I'm just saying, but again,
look, you're going to relate to whatever you can relate to, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. Right? And look, and I'm a huge advocate, and this is what drives me crazy, is it's hard because I'm a huge advocate. And look, dude, you reap what you sow. Like, if you chose not to do it and you feel like you're healthy enough to do it, look, dude, there's consequences to it. If you're going to put yourself at risk and you feel like I'm above it, it is what, look, dude, it is what it is.
Right?
Yes.
That's on both sides. So if I get vaccinated, that is on me. Like, what are the side effects that there possibly could be? Now, I got to deal with those consequences, right?
Yep.
As a person that got vaccinated, because let's be real about this. Once we went through this vaccination process, there wasn't a whole lot of testing.
No.
It wasn't. I mean, this thing happened so fast that, I mean, half the people were like, I'm not doing this because we haven't tested this long enough. I talked to my mother about it. I had to convince my mother to go get vaccinated because she was like, no way.
Yeah.
You know what they did to the African Americans? Years ago, they used to run tests, and Tuskegee, they used to run tests on us, right? Yeah. So that was, I had to convince her to do so, right? So I understand there might be repercussions to the fact that you get vaccinated, but vice versa on the opposite side as well, right? So whatever, if you didn't get your vaccination, I can't feel sorry for you.
No,
it's just,
and I'm not asking for you.
I'm
not asking. I think, if you're in a scenario, it's like, hey, look, you made the conscious decision not to. It's available to everybody. You made the conscious decision. You've got to fall in line behind. If you're in competition for it, look, I mean, I would probably say, look, the nod's got to go here. But like, it's also unfortunate, right, that the best defense of this virus is being in good health, right? Is getting vitamin D. Yeah. Not having diabetes,
I think that's
obesity.
A great thing. That's a great thing. That's a very easy fix.
I totally agree. So it's the same deal. It's like, I'm just going to get a shot, and I'm good, but I'm going to keep doing all this other stuff for my health. Well, you get it, right? And the vaccine has proven not to eliminate the side effects of it, right? No. So yes, it reduces the risks, but like, okay, if you're still 500 pounds, or, you have diabetes and your diet's terrible and all these things. And look, everybody has reasons for that. And I'm not saying like you're a bad person because of that. But at the same time, you also made a decision to put yourself at risk. Mm-hmm. So we got to look at both consequences. Like, which one's more dangerous, to be overweight and out of shape and have diabetes, or to not get the vaccine?
Yeah.
Which one's more dangerous?
Yeah, the overweight, of course.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I did hear a perspective the other day, because I'm with you, Tyler. I did hear a perspective the other day that made me think is, yes, that's very true. Being in good shape gives you a much better opportunity to do well through this. However, it is a novel virus. We don't know much about it yet. And you can't get somebody in shape, and it's not an instant fix, whereas a vaccine is in a pandemic, there is this medicine available to us that we can utilize. We can now let's table the obesity part for a second. Yeah. Let's do what we can to save as many lives as we can. Yeah. And then let's attack the obesity. But the problem is we've been doing obesity for
forever.
And it's going the wrong direction.
It's going the wrong direction. Right. People are getting worse.
So what are the numbers?
Over time.
So what are the numbers at state?
I did want to ask you something though real quick, Darren, about your mom and her hesitancy, if you don't mind going down that path. So let me ask you this. Did your mom know anybody who had bad effects personally from the vaccine?
It's, you know what it is? I'll just call it what it is. It's a trust.
Sure.
She doesn't trust the government.
Right.
Right. And it's historically been the case in African community. You don't trust
rightfully
the government.
So.
And for rightful reasons, so. Right? So, but that was a part of it. Like, it's almost like I had to go through an education process with my mother on this, because for me it was, hey, look, you're going to be around the family. The family wants to be around you. And let's cut to the chase. My mother is 76 years old. I want her to spend as much time with her family as possible. Is it the cure-all, the vaccine the cure-all? No, it's not, because she can still get it, but the chances were a little different. I looked at them as, okay, I need to weigh these options. She needs to get the vaccine so she can be around her grandkids.
Yeah. And again, your mother's 76 years old, right? I'm going to speak personally, and my wife has made her own individual decision. If she decided to get the vaccine, hey, I'm for it. But my personal decision is the risk for me on the unknown, is it enough for me to get it at this point right now? Or is, hey, listen, I feel like my risk level is a lot lower than your mother, who's 76, right? Who has experienced a more life than I have. But I think, if I was at risk, like I would take the vaccine for sure. With the unknowns, I wish there was more research, there was more knowledge, there was more science behind it. But for me right now, it's like, okay, there's not enough to make me feel good about it.
But also part of your hesitancy, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you had COVID, so you have the natural immunity. I never had COVID. I never got, unless if I did, I didn't know it, and I never tested positive. So for me, I made the personal choice when I looked at everything. Yes, I'm healthy. Yes, more than likely I'm going to be okay. But I looked at it as, I'm going to catch this eventually. We're all going to get it eventually. I might as well have some sort of protection on top of just my normal, natural being in good health. So whereas you've made the decision, hey, I already have that based on having COVID. I don't need an extra, and there's not enough. It's the short term versus long term. It's almost like a discussion of short term versus long term gratification, meaning, hey, we don't know anything about this yet, but for the short term, it's going to fix me, so I'm going to take it. Whereas we might find out in 5 years, I'm going to grow another third ear or whatever. We don't know that. But in the short term, I made the personal decision. My wife made the personal decision, and it's so interesting to me that it's become so divisive. I wonder out loud, and I'll wonder out loud with you guys, if it had been any other time, meaning not in an election year, would this have become and been the same divisive discussion as it is? Did the timing have anything to do with it coming down right in an election year? Do y'all think it had anything to do with that?
Oh, absolutely. It's been politicized to the hilt.
Right. And so for like your mother, her hesitancy, and we talked about this a little before, if 10% of the population passes away from this virus, now all of a sudden it's hey, I'm trying to preserve self. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to stay alive. 10% is a massive number. Right. Whereas right now it's only 0.0 whatever percent. And again, I'm coming to this conversation as somebody that hasn't been personally affected, nor have I had a family member or a close friend personally affected. So I'm coming in from that.
Affected with COVID?
With COVID. Well, not too severe. They got sick, but nothing severe that's been life altering or life changing. I totally understand if somebody's listening to this, or if you two have had a family member that passed away from the virus or with the virus, however it is. I totally understand that there's a different perspective coming in. My perspective is, though, that we've made it a bigger deal when you really look at the numbers.
Yeah.
And so,
but I want to be gracious in knowing that that's my perspective.
Yeah. And here's the other thing is that having gone the amount of time, right? Like Darren, the time that you did it, like it was literally like, okay, hey, look, I'm very seriously considering this, but because the information that was available at that time, it was like, yes, like this is a great solution. This is a great deal. This is awesome. But as we go, more and more information comes out, right? And the longer we go, the more I'm learning, okay, hold on. Like initially you said, hey, you have to get the vaccine because you've got to protect everybody else. Okay, we're learning now that the vaccine has nothing to do with you getting it, carrying it, and passing it. It doesn't protect you from that. It doesn't stop you from doing that. So you are more likely to spread the virus if you are vaccinated and don't show symptoms because you don't have symptoms, right? And you're carrying the virus and you can spread it. I mean, think about all the people that have been vaccinated, which is great that, look, it's proving to be effective in reducing symptoms or eliminating symptoms, but you are still a carrier of it. So there was all this early shaming on why you didn't get the vaccine. So the challenge that I have is just, it's changed so much over the last 6 to 9 months. I don't know. And I'm more confused today about it than I was when it came out in January. And so again, allow me to collect the data that makes me feel comfortable.
And you should have the choice to do so.
Yeah.
You have the choice to do so.
And that's a great point, Tyler, that there's no leeway for confusion right now.
Right. Yeah.
If you're confused, that means you're anti-vax.
Yeah.
If you're not sure and you're wanting to do your research, that means that you're like you want to kill people. Yeah. That's just not the case. We've not given each other grace in this time of saying, hey, I'm a little hesitant. I want to research this a little bit. Let's see this over. I waited. I didn't get it. Darren, you got it right when you were available.
No, I didn't. I waited because the reason why I waited is because, first of all, we didn't have enough understanding of what the side effects possibly could be. That was one. I had already had COVID before in June 2020. So my wife and I sat back and said, well, why do we want to get vaccinated if we've already had COVID?
So then for you personally, what was the tipping point?
The tipping point for me was talking to a number of doctors. Another thing is I travel and I speak at a lot of events. And I had a client that I was going to go speak to in Seattle that said, hey, look, you're going to have to, at some point when you do this, you're going to have to be, vaccinated. You're going to show a card. And that's the one that got to me was, okay, well, I do get on planes. I'm traveling all over the country. What's this going to look like? What's this going to look like when I want to go on vacation with my family to Mexico or do that's for me, that's where the information started to come in. And I started thinking, okay, well, look, I'm going to be out there. I want to live my regular lifestyle. I want to be around my mother and my rest of my family that much older than I am. I need to get vaccinated. And that's all I knew back then. So that's why I went and got vaccinated.
And that was the time where we were learning, okay, hey, you can catch it a second time. Right. Like you're not fully immune after you get it, right?
Right.
The second wave of cases was coming out. So it was like, okay, you actually can catch it again. So I totally understand it. And again, and to your point, right, is like we are so dead set on, hey, you need to do what I believe. Like you need to do to your body what I believe I need to do for my body, right? And there's a double standard across the board. And I wish that as a country, we can look at each other and say, hey, listen, like it's now you are not putting me in any more danger by being vaccinated or not vaccinated. You are the same risk as you are if you're vaccinated or you're not vaccinated. Okay. So that is your choice. Now look, if there was science that said, hey, listen, you can't spread the vaccine to anybody else, you're telling me that I would choose not to protect somebody else? I would do anything and everything I could to protect my family, to protect those that I interact, to protect strangers. I mean, I can't tell you how many times just in public, like I've put myself at risk trying to, however serious it was, but just protect somebody, pull them out of a fight, push them out of the way of getting hit. I mean, whatever it is, like I would do anything I could to protect somebody, but the science isn't there to show that. So now it becomes, hey, do I feel at risk enough and do I want to make this decision to protect myself or my kids, because my wife and I have a mutual decision to make about our children, okay? And it's our decision as parents, nobody else's, and I'm firm on that. And I made that decision. So look, and like you said, it's self-preservation. If I truly thought that I was going to be safer because of it, of course I would do it. I want to live as long as I possibly can. But I just don't have enough information to feel like the benefits right now are strong enough to take it. Now, here's another scenario is the NFL. The NFL is penalizing guys if they are unvaccinated and they spread COVID within their locker room. But if you are vaccinated and you spread COVID within the locker room, no penalty because you're vaccinated. I think that's bull. We just had a pastor on not too long ago, so I'm not going to cuss. I think it's BS. I think it's absolutely BS. Because here's the thing, is I was in a position when I played, is that you put that in front of me and say, hey, not only is your family's livelihood on the line, your teammates' livelihood and their families are on the line. If you don't get vaccinated, you know what I'm going to do? Psh, stick me up, man. Shoot me up. I don't care. I'm going to get it because I'm not going to do that to those people. But I think that's BS because just because I'm an employee of this organization, now I have to put something in my body whether I'm comfortable with it or not.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
You have the choice to walk away.
You have a choice to walk away.
No. Because the decision doesn't just affect me. It affects other people's families. If it just affected me, yeah, for sure.
Well, the counter argument though is yes, you could walk away. You could be very uncomfortable in that scenario.
My family's livelihood.
Right.
My family's livelihood. But it's not me.
Okay, but we see now.
It's not just me.
No.
Right.
I would go live on a beach or at a ski resort somewhere. I'd be fine if it was just me.
Is the NFL a publicly owned company?
No, it's a nonprofit.
It's a nonprofit, right? Uh-huh. So most of the organization, the team's run by privately held, right? Basically, the Dallas Cowboys are owned by the Joneses, right?
That's right.
So he can set his own mandates across the board.
NFL imposes fines. The NFL will impose fines on you and your teammates.
Okay, so we've always gone through this through the NFL, right? The NFL says something, whatever it may be, helmet to helmet, boom, they impose a fine. They just throw it in there and say, hey, this year, $75,000 if you do that, right? Yeah. It's just a part of it, right? If you either you play by the rules or you don't, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the rules are laid out by the NFL. Mm-hmm. And I get it, man. I totally understand. I don't like mandates. I don't like people telling me what I can and what I can't do with my body, right? Mm-hmm. Across the board. And this goes across every board. Whether you be religious, pro-life, whatever it is, across the board. I don't want people telling me what to do with my body. And I totally agree with you on that. But when it comes to the NFL, they've always imposed themselves on us, right? So what's different now than from what's been going on forever? Like if they say everybody's going to do A, B, and C, you still have a choice to say, well, I'm not playing this year. I'm out. Mm-hmm. That's your choice. Mm-hmm. Live with it.
Yeah.
The other side of it is, all right, like most of the guys have done, they went and got vaccinated.
That's right. And I would too. That's what I'm saying. Is I would go get vaccinated. I'm saying that's the choice that I would make, even if I was uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
No doubt. Because again, if it was just me, I'd walk away from the game. No problem.
Right.
Like, hey, if it was that important to me. But for me, it's not that it's that important or not important. Like, I don't agree with vaccination. I don't agree with not getting vaccinated. I just don't have an opinion because I don't have enough information to feel comfortable to lean one side or the other. I'm just in the middle, so I just haven't been vaccinated yet.
And it's a shame. What's a shame is that people are actually shaming us. For not getting vaccinated or getting whatever it is. Like it's like God always says, this is your temple.
Yeah.
You decide what's good for yourself, right? And that's how it should be.
And listen, I am all my faith teaches it. The book that I believe to be the truth says it. Look, we are called to follow the laws of man, right? Like, and if it is a law, it is what it is. Just like our military, and I've brought this example up. Like, our military may not agree with our president, but that is their commander in chief, and they're going to do what he says. Like, there is a point, but there is also a point where it's like, okay, hold on. Like, why? Why are we doing this? And I am not a conspiracy theorist. All these people are like, well, they're trying to do this, and they're trying to implement. They're going to put something into us, and they're trying. Hey, look, let me clear this up for anybody that's listening right now. People are not that smart. Our government, if you talk to any politician, they are not smart enough to put this intricate of a plan together to trick our entire country into doing something. They are not that smart. With that being said, they're also not that smart. So there's things that are going through that shouldn't be going through, or they're pushing things through because, hey, they're getting influence or pressure this way. Look, there's not this big conspiracy theory. The government's trying to hold us down. They're tricking into us. They're going to make us communists. They're doing this. Look, there's just a lot of dumb people out there that are in positions that they shouldn't be in, and not enough leaders are stepping up to actually fill those roles or make an impact. You want change, go make change. Step into that role. Work for your city. Be a state representative. Be a senator. Run for those things. Do something. But like, don't have this whole conspiracy theory and band people together because they're trying to hold us down and they're trying to impose this and trying to. No, they're not that smart. If you've talked to any politician, hey, I love you guys. They're just people. They're not any smarter than any of us. And Ben, do you think that you could demise a plan to trick the entire country into taking a vaccine?
I probably could.
See, I know you think you could. Is it realistic? No.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It raises an interesting discussion though, because talking about the NFL mandate, and you do it, you comply if you want to be a part of the NFL.
Yeah.
The question is, what if an entire how many players in there? 1,400 players in the league, something like that. What if everybody got together and said, "Hey, we're not doing this"? Then what do they say? Right? We just had that example with Southwest Airlines. They had a bunch of cancellations. Pilots all got together and said, no, this mandate is we're not going to comply to this.
Yeah.
And now Southwest is repealing that mandate.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay, I want to go back on.
So you do.
We got
a couple of these.
We got a couple of these. Okay, so there was a large number of people that did not want to stand for the national anthem. Mm-hmm. A couple of years ago, right? And this is just, it always depends on what side you're on here, right? Mm-hmm. So there was a large number of African-American players who stood up and said, hey, we're not going to stand because of the rights. This is a rights movement. This is about the violence and inner city violence and police brutality and blah, 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 right? And there was a tremendous backlash. Mm-hmm. So if those players would have banded together, all 1,400 players, whatever they were, banded together and said, you know what? We're not going to stand for the national. We're going to take a knee. Mm-hmm. How would the rest of us have felt? How would the rest of the people have felt?
Depends on your perspective.
It depends on your perspective. Mm-hmm. And it's all what we're talking about right now. It just depends on your perspective and where you sit on what side of the fence you sit on.
Yeah, there's no solution that we can come up with, the three of us today, to solve all this. No. You're going to come into any argument, and that it can be as serious as this. It can be as dumb as what restaurant you want to go to. Uh-huh. You're going to come in with your past and with your experience. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the lens you're going to make these decisions on. I think the problem that a lot of people have is whenever outside entities are now starting to tell me what to do. Like you said, Darren, don't tell me what to do with my own body.
Absolutely.
I agree with you. I'm against overreach. Mm-hmm. But I do recognize that there needs to be some boundaries set.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, Tyler, I also don't buy into the fact that this is some major conspiracy. I truly do think that a percentage, at least a majority, are trying to do their best. They don't know. They don't have the answers. They're trying to do their best to get us through this thing. I don't know if you guys listened to the Joe Rogan with Dr. Sanjay Gupta podcast that was out just a few weeks ago. Yeah. So Dr. Sanjay Gupta is a one of the CNN contributors, and Joe Rogan is anti-CNN. Mm-hmm. And they had a very interesting conversation because they came at it from very different perspectives, but they listened to each other. Mm-hmm. They respected what each other had to say. Mm-hmm. They called each other out. Yeah. They challenged each other, but they took 3 hours to form a relationship. Mm-hmm. And I left that conversation just listening, feeling inspired, feeling hopeful that we can do more of that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We've got to take it offline though. You can't I don't know Tyler, at Ty Klutz. I don't know who that is. Yeah. So I'm just going to put my shot in on social media and then I'm done. All I know about Tyler is that one comment he said on that thread.
That's right.
I don't know anything else about him. Mm-hmm. Whereas the difference is those two men who had very different perspectives came together and actually formed a relationship. And it was a very productive. It gave me things to think about because I was more siding with Joe Rogan's perspective, but it also gave me some things to think about from the other side.
That's right.
And the biggest thing that I took away was we're just trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
This is a novel virus. We don't know.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. I mean, we hear something, right? And we choose to hear what we already believe to reinforce what we believe. That's just nature. That's what we do. We gravitate towards people that think like us, that look like us, that come from, that's what we naturally gravitate to, right? Whatever. But so same with information, right? So when you have a conversation and Darren, who I deeply care about, Ben, who I deeply care about, if we actually have a conversation, I will hear perspectives that I don't have.
I want to take a quick break from this discussion, this heated discussion, to talk about and thank our sponsor, Choctaw Casino and Resort. Guys, we've talked about it for months now. The brand new expansion that they did just back in August. Get yourself up there. It is incredible. It is one of those things. It's like the Grand Canyon. I tell people, you have to see it in person. Words do not do it justice. Get yourself up to Choctaw Casino and Resort, just an hour north in Durant, Oklahoma, up just north of DFW. 3,300 slots, brand new restaurants, resort-style pool, over 1,000 rooms. We stayed there the night, and the rooms are top-notch, 5-star type hotel rooms. Get yourself up there. Get away from all this craziness and all this division. Go have yourself a great time up at Choctaw Casino Resort. Now back to the episode.
One thing that my wife and I always say this, and very rarely do I get like emotional about something, like I really truly like am upset about something. But when I do, like it's really quick. My wife's like, "Dude, why do you feel like that? Like stop feeling like that. Like that's not true. Like quit being a."
What does Tiffany say?
Quit being a softie, Tyler. And I'm like, and my counter is, she has used that. She actually has.
You know,
I went through a really emotional time about 2 years ago, guys. But here's the thing, and one of the things that I always say is like, and I recognize with her too, and I'll tell other husbands this, is like, listen, if your wife is upset about something, whether you think it's right or wrong, it's right to her because she feels it. Like it's her truth. It's my truth when I get upset about something. Same with you, Darren. Like whatever you believe, with the vaccine or abortion or gun rights or rape, whatever it is you believe, that's your truth because that's your experience because you have lived a very different life than me. No two people can live the exact same life. Absolutely. So you have a different experience, different perspective, different lens. And so until you have that conversation, like you said, Ben, like how are you ever supposed to understand that if you're just in this echo chamber of people that are reinforcing the same things that you want to believe and just strengthening them and hardening you? That's the problem, is we become so hardened and so callous. The second I hear liberal, I'm going to shut, you're stupid. You don't know this. And it's like, hold on. What's the foundation of that thought process, right? Free choice. Like, hey, you get to choose or whatever, you know what I mean? Like we just become so calloused that we hear a trigger word that we shut down and we get defensive instead of listening.
And this is a great example of that. And the reason we do that is because we don't take the time to discover that person, who that person really is. Yeah. This is a great example of that because I don't watch CNN. That's typically not a news network. I agree with what they said. Now I don't watch Fox either, but I get my sources more on the conservative side. That's just where I tend to gravitate for my news. Having said that, I would have never have known who that guy. I mean, I've heard his name, but I always just painted him. Oh, that's a CNN reporter, right? Or that's a CNN doctor. Yeah. If I had never taken the time to listen to that, now I actually respect that guy. He had a lot of great things. I really do truly believe he has a great heart. Yeah. He's trying his best. Yeah. If I had never taken the time to listen to that and to get to know that person. Now, I'm not literally getting to know them, but my point is it's too much effort to get to know people. Yeah. It's just much easier to paint them with a broad brush, to just say that they're all that way, and that's racism. That's any issue. It's just much easier to put everybody in a box and assume that they're this way.
Because we normally, and it goes for myself and everybody else, we don't want to be uncomfortable. Bingo. We don't want to go down these roads of maybe I'm wrong. Like maybe I'm absolutely wrong by my stance.
For you personally, Darren, why is it uncomfortable to be wrong?
Why is it uncomfortable?
Yeah, like for you, because, or maybe you've gotten to yourself where you're like you're okay with it. But
no, I'm not. I mean, let's call it what it is. You know what? I can have an argument with my wife, and then she'll walk me down this road, and I'm like, damn, I'm fucking wrong. Yeah. But I'm still. I'm not going to admit it. I'll never admit it, right? But I think there's growth there. That's when someone can walk you down a road and you can firmly admit, yeah, I was wrong in my thoughts, or maybe I need to soften my thoughts. Now there's growth, because when we just firmly believe, and we surround ourselves with people who just believe. It's like we're just going through this cycle of, oh yeah, we're all the same, we're all the same. And then when you hear something else, it's division. Nope, I'm not listening to it. And there's no growth in that. That's just a dark way of thinking, man. It's the only time you grow is when you can admit or see things and go, man, okay, that's a different perspective. I never heard that one, like you just said. Another guy that you listened to a little bit is it Sam Harris?
Yeah.
Right?
Love Sam Harris.
You turn me on to Sam Harris, and he has a different perspective about things that's really opened my eyes to certain topics to think, okay, I never thought maybe that there's some truth in there. But it's just the time, just taking the time to listen is growth. There's growth in that.
What is it for you, Tyler? Why is it uncomfortable for you when you're wrong?
Well, I mean, I say it all the time, right? We all struggle with ego, right? And if we admit that we're wrong, we admit that we're weak, and nobody wants to be considered weak. But here's the thing with that is in any personal reactions, when somebody says, you know what? Hey, I didn't look at it that way. Hey, I'm sorry. I was wrong. And I apologize. What does that immediately do to you if someone says that to you?
It disarms you.
It disarms you.
Yep.
And guess what? Then you're actually, okay, I'm not on defense. I'm not on this. Let's have a conversation. Like, it's crazy what just that simple language, that simple, that simple interaction can do if you're just like, hey, listen, crap, admit that I'm, and guess what? Those are the people that I respect the most. Like, some of the people that I think are the smartest people are the quickest to acknowledge, hey, dude, I was wrong. I jumped to an assumption there and I didn't have all the information. Yeah. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy what that does. But we are so enamored with our ego. Our ego just consumes everything that we do because everything is forward facing, what people think of us, what our reputation is, what our success level is, what our perceived family situation is, all these things that just boost this ego. Like, no, I'm good enough to do it myself. I'm good enough. But when you admit that, that's a chink in that armor, right? Yeah. And admitting that you have a chink and you're vulnerable, and none of us want to be vulnerable.
Yeah. But that's where leadership is, though, man.
100%.
I think that's where true leadership goes, is when, like, I've been around my kids. My kids, I think when I really became a father that was showing true leadership is when my brother died and my kids saw me vulnerable. Yeah. And then they came to me and they saw me in that weakest moment. And then after that there was a following. It's almost like they sat there and they said, okay, man, my dad bleeds. Mm-hmm. He's got an emotional side to him. And now my daughter and my son came to me. And it's similar to the same way as a leader in a locker room, and you can admit, hey, man, I was wrong by that, man. Let's sit down and let's talk about this, right? Like, if I sat down with you and I say, yeah, man, I was wrong. I went off on you on the football field, man. I shouldn't have did that, bro. I shouldn't have did that in front of everyone. Now, let's sit down and let's talk about how we can take the next steps. That's when you have leadership. But when you just sit there and say, no, I was right, and you try to drill it in someone's head, man, you're not leading that way.
Yeah, you know what that is? That's authenticity.
Yep.
And people are attracted to authentic things,
right,
and things they know are real. So your kids were attracted that. You know, for me, honestly, this is really silly to think this, but for me, it's the feeling that I'm dumb. If I'm wrong about something, that means I'm not intelligent. That's how I translate it in my head. Oh, I'm wrong about this. That means, because I struggled. I was an okay student growing up, but you would never say Ben's a smart, people would, just to be nice, but you would never put me at the top I wasn't top 10%. There was nothing about me in my schooling that would say that I'm an intelligent person. So now when I take that to arguments, I have to be right because I don't want to be seen as dumb.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
I mean,
I don't want to be seen as a less than because I'm not intelligent.
We have that. Because again, but it's ego, right? It's like I don't want to look stupid in the metaphorical version of it, and the literal, like, okay, he's literally not smart, or he's like, dude, you look like an idiot because you fought on the wrong side, dude. What do you know?
We talked about this a while. That's why I'm so silent in new scenarios, and subject matters that I don't know.
Yeah, I'm similar.
I don't want to be perceived as dumb, so I just stay silent, which has its drawbacks as well. So I think of these arguments when we're having these conversations online or in person. Part of it is, like you said, that ego of wanting to feel intelligent. And when I'm wrong, I don't feel very intelligent. I feel very dumb in those moments.
No, wow, that's crazy. You say, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to change the subject. So if you had something to say on that,
go ahead.
I was going to say,
Validate
okay,
me.
so
Tell me I'm
Darren,
smart.
what's your?
No.
Hey, you're super smart, man.
Not telling you that.
No, I want to hear from my dad, Darren. Darren, tell me.
No,
I'm smart.
No, I'm not going to tell you. No.
It's not your fault, Darren.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault. What were you going to say?
So my question to you is, okay, look at the state of California. Do you think that the government, the state government, should be able to mandate that children have to be vaccinated to go to school?
No, here we go with mandates. Like, I just don't like mandates. Yeah. I'm sorry.
What about this? Do you think that the state should be able to mandate wearing seatbelts?
Look, I think there's laws in place. Like, there are some firm laws that are in place for ourselves, right? Yeah. I mean, there's just for our own health. There's some laws that are in place. And that specifically goes through, car accidents and whatnot. But here we go with mandates again.
Right. No. That's
right. I mean, here we go with these mandates again. And again, like, depending on what side of the fence I'm on, I might be okay with the mandate. Like, I'm just being real about it, right? I mean, we all have our own perspective of what we feel is right.
How many vaccines did you have to take as a kid going to school?
Oh my God.
There were quite a few, right?
Hell yeah.
So we were okay back then.
And that's increased over the years.
Right. Now, the point is obviously research and time and things like that.
I don't think it's mandated anymore. You've got to have your vaccination cards. Right?
I remember going to school, going to college. I had to have a hepatitis or tuberculosis,
tetanus.
Yeah. Like, those were mandated.
All those, there's all those. And we've got friends, though, that are going to school. And, like, there was, over the last few years, right, and again, it's funny, right? A lot of the same people that said, "Oh, no, like, I'm not putting that in my kid's body," are now on the other side of it, like, "Oh no, you have to get this because you need to save it." It's just interesting, right? But there's a lot of people that are like all very like natural, like we're not putting any of that in our body.
Absolutely.
There's preservatives, there's all these things, and like, okay, I get it. That is a scenario though, and some friends of ours had kids that didn't get vaccinated, that got sick, that got this and spread it to their class. Like, they're literally endangering.
Wait a minute. Even though the kids had already been
so that's
vaccinated.
the question. I don't know. I'm not going to say yes. All those other kids were vaccinated because they're not requiring. So that's the same. So that was the argument at that time before all the COVID stuff. Is like, okay, you chose not to get your child vaccinated,
right? So
now they're sick, but now you're mad at us because we also didn't get them vaccinated. So who's right there? So I get that, but is it in order to get an education in the state of California, is it right? And if it's not, if you don't believe it is, what can you do? Like, as an individual, like for me, I do not think that my kids at 9, 7, and 4 years old should get a vaccine that doesn't have enough time to see the long-term effects. The difference is these old vaccinations, there's 20, 30 years, 40 years of research, of data, of case studies, of what the actual effects in the studies are, right? So I could understand that, but this is just so new, and you could say, hey, look, the technology's been around for 10 years and they just adjusted it. It's like, okay, cool, but like they adjusted it. So there's a change. There's a change that hasn't been studied because this exact vaccine hasn't been used for 10 years. So it is something new. So as a state, and you live in the state of California, I know, and this is something that I just heard recently, is parents are saying, hey, on this date, we are not sending our kids to school. Like if Southwest Airlines pilots, if you firmly believe in it, you have to be willing to walk away from it. As a parent, you have to be willing to say, okay, look, it's not worth it to me to send them to school. Absolutely. And now I'm going to take on the burden of teaching my kid at home, giving them the education that they need, or sending them to private school and paying for it, or whatever it is. So it's a tough deal, and I have sympathy for the parents there that have to make that decision, because I don't think that that's a decision that they should have to make.
Yeah, but it goes back to putting yourself out a little bit, inconveniencing yourself. Those parents have made the decision, because that's going to be very inconvenient to keep their kids home from school that day. Yeah. Very inconvenient. But they've decided this is important enough for me to go through that minor inconvenience. So just take that same mentality to whatever it is that you're inspired to believe in, right? Mm-hmm. If it's that important to you, be okay with the minor. That's the problem. And I'll speak for myself. I never like to be inconvenienced.
Yeah.
I'll avoid inconvenience at all costs.
Yeah.
And so I'm just okay going along to get along so that I don't have to go through any inconvenience.
Right.
The problem becomes when we do that more often, too often, and you just get steamrolled.
Yeah. Yeah.
So whatever cause, it doesn't have to be the vaccine, doesn't have to be whatever cause it is. If it's that important, we talked about this a few weeks ago, the civil rights movement. Do you think Rosa Parks, she had to be very uncomfortable in that scenario, right? Yeah. To fight back. Right. That was very inconvenient to have to go spend the night in jail, but it was important enough to her to stand up in that moment.
Right.
So whatever it is that you're fighting for, realize you're not just going to be able to skate through unscathed.
It's going to be uncomfortable.
It's going to get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's the person that can handle that discomfort the most that's probably going to come out the other side. And that goes across the board.
It's a shame. You just said that about California State. I don't know. I mean, look, I have a 5-year-old. I'm not looking to get him vaccinated. I'm not.
No. Me neither.
Period. So, but again, let's put ourselves in those situations. Let's say you're in California and your kids are in the public school program, schools, and you sit there and you think, what if I don't have the resources to just get up and move? Because some of us may have some resources to just get up and move.
A lot of us don't.
I don't like what's going on in California. I'm moving to Texas, right? 99% of the people in this world, in this country, probably don't have those resources.
All right, take another quick break to thank our newest partner, Sleep Number. That's right, the official sleep partner of the Dallas Cowboys is now the official sleep partner of the Darren Woodson Show. And guys, we talk about it every single time we come on here. The technology that Sleep Number has implemented into their mattresses is second to none. It tells you so many different metrics to keep you recovered, to keep you performing at your highest level. We all know that we suffer when we don't sleep well, and every single time Sleep Number comes through with their technology, with their smart Sleep Number 360 beds. Go to sleepnumber.com, check out their beds. It's a customized approach. It fits you and your needs. Go check out a Sleep Number store wherever you are. They're all over the place, and go get yourself involved. Thank you so much, Sleep Number. We love the partnership, love the extra content we're able to bring you guys because of them. So like I said, go check out sleepnumber.com. Now back to the episode.
Well, so what do they do?
And the other thing is, and I told, hey, if that's the decision you made for your family, it's best for me to leave and go, then that's great. And maybe hopefully that will create change. But the problem is you just get up and leave, nothing gets solved.
Nothing gets solved. You got to stand up.
So I do commend those parents that say, hey, we're not going to leave. We're just going to keep our kids home. That's how we're going to stand up. We can't leave or whatever their scenario
So who gets burdened then? The school makes money off the fact that you have students in the classroom, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, so schools, so the school gets burdened because schools get funded by attendance.
Right.
So the state reimburses the schools for every day that student is there. That's why schools are pushing so hard for perfect attendance. And they become more and more strict on attendance rules because funding is directly tied to the amount of days that you show up to school. So now the thought is, okay, our kids don't go to school. The school doesn't get funding. The funding then pushes back to the state, and there's this change that's being made. My question on this is, it's hard for me to comprehend because I look at being in a leadership role. Am I going to make like a unilateral decision just on what I believe for millions and millions and millions of people without really truly understanding? Was there ever a vote? And I don't know this answer. Was there ever a vote that the citizens of the state of California say, yes, I think kids should be vaccinated? And if there's a majority vote that says, yes, they should be vaccinated, okay, then listen, like the people have spoke. I've chosen to live in a place where a majority of the people feel this way. Look, the majority rules. That it is what it is. That's why we vote certain people in, because majority of the people vote a certain way. So I don't understand is, okay, what are you trying to protect, right? If you're a leader, if you're a politician in California, what is the reasoning behind this? Is there, and this is where I said I'm not a conspiracy guy, but like, is there funding that benefits the state from the pharmaceutical companies for imposing these vaccines? Is there alternative benefits? Or are they just that scared of liability that they just don't want to get sued because if they don't have everybody vaccinated.
Well, what is their base saying?
Right.
Those that are in
that's what they're
office, what is their
speaking to.
base saying?
Like you said, the majority have spoken.
Yeah.
So they're gonna placate to the majority.
Yeah, but what are they saying? And I don't know, because I would argue, and again, I'm just making stuff up. I would argue that even if you voted for Governor Newsom, that you have some hesitation when there's a mandate to vaccinate kids down to 4 years old.
Well, that speaks to Texas as well, right? So there's mandates that, Abbott, his base is, mostly it's going to be a conservative base. He's that's who he's going to serve, right? That's what he's going to say. So he's going to say no mandates.
Yeah.
Right. So and it's a give and take. It just depends on where you are and where you live.
Isn't it pretty incredible if you take a 30,000 foot view that we can even have this discussion, that we can live in a place that we can even have the opportunity to go to another state if you want to.
Yeah.
That's different than what you believe in.
Think differently. Just
Isn't that pretty amazing?
It is.
So that's, you hit it on the head, dude. Even as crazy as the time is in this country, we still get to have these conversations. If you want to, like you said, if you want to move, you can move. And look, I could choose to live in a state, and I could choose to vote a certain way that these things are being implemented, and I could choose to live there because that makes me happy. Great. If you don't, then you have the choice to go somewhere else.
Yeah, but see, that's what I said earlier, though. That's the part
but
that bothers me.
Do you have the choice?
Yeah,
some
of it, like 98% of the country can't afford to just get up and go. Just can't do it.
I don't know 97%. I have no idea, but you're right. There is a percentage of people that. But we always talk about taking personal. I've got to think there's a way you can figure it out, some way, somehow.
I agree.
Look, wait.
I think if you live in South Dakota, certain areas of South Dakota where cost of living is extremely low, and you I have to be in California, I think that's probably okay. But if you're in a state like California or New York, and you're like, and I don't like how this is going, the only major cost, let's say I rent, I don't own anything, I don't have a vehicle, so my costs are I've got to get transportation.
Yeah, well,
I do want to hear your perspective, Darren, because my thought is yes, you can.
No, you can't.
Right.
Let's just go back to what happened in New Orleans when the floods came, right? Because people couldn't leave. People were like, "Oh, you can get out. You can." They didn't have cars to leave. Like we live in a freaking bubble.
Yeah.
Like most of the people in this country are living check to check, don't have cars, catch the transit system. There's a huge number of people around this country that just don't have access to just say, okay, I'm going to pick up. Matter of fact, I'm going to sell my little $10,000 house and I'm going to move to Texas.
Yes.
Oh, crap.
I think that's hey, I'm going to make the decision and do it tomorrow. Right. No, but you look at everything after Hurricane Katrina, Houston's population grew by almost 100,000 people.
Yeah, because you know what? The government sent buses and they took them people to Houston. That wasn't something that they said, okay, that was aid. Yeah. Government aid to help them.
I understand that, but
here.
You're telling me that some people don't have the capacity to say, hey, I need to go I got shipped to Houston. I want to actually get back to Shreveport.
Yeah, they could go back. But I'm talking listen, you're talking about California, Watts,
Inglewood, Compton.
You name it in that city. A lot of those people, I grew up in Phoenix. Like we couldn't just get up and leave. My mom could say, "Hey man, we're going to move to Texas." Shit. We're living check to check. We don't even have a car. Our car don't even work. How are we going to get to Texas? And where are we going to stay when we get to Texas? And
you don't
here's an argument. Here's an argument for that. So I do believe that part of it is a choice and what you're familiar with, what you're comfortable with, and that is a huge obstacle to get over. I'm not discrediting that. But do you mean to tell me that people in South Central LA and Inglewood and Marysville, Arizona have less resources than immigrants in Mexico that figure out a way
to walk
to
themselves across the border? But we're talking about people that have lived in a place for a long time and have just flat out don't have the resource. Now, if you want to just migrate, I think we're sitting on this set right now. We are living in a freaking bubble.
No doubt. I'm not arguing with you.
Let's go to West Dallas, just down the street here. and see kids whose grandmothers live with them who are diabetics and they can't get out of the bed and they're living in a shanty. Like that's what I'm saying. We are privileged, and there's a number of us that are privileged, a large percent of this country that is privileged to do whatever they want to do. My problem is, like, if I'm in California and these mandates are coming down and I just don't have the resources, I'm just going to have to suffer through this.
Well, do you suffer through it,
or take a hard stance on my,
take a hard stance, or you know what this time has inspired me more than ever? Something I never really cared about: getting educated and voting. And I'm not talking about just the presidential. I'm talking about your local elections, right. Things that you can make change in your community. So getting educated on that, stop being apathetic on these vote and keep voting in, or letting the majority vote in these people, and actually get educated and actually go out and make a difference way as well. Yeah. That's another thing. If you literally can't move.
And Darren, this is a question, and this is not me being confrontational. Do you believe that some people have no control over their destiny?
In this country?
In this country.
You're not talking about just...
No, I'm talking about... Yeah, no, I think there's
international cases. Are you talking about free... Are you going down the free will discussion?
I mean, that's an element of it. But do you believe that, hey, look, I'm looking Ted in the eye and say, hey, look, there's nothing you can do to make your life better?
Well, look, but there's a lot of people that mentally.
Okay, yeah. Look. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. There's people that need 100% caretakers. I get it. There's that.
Where are we going?
So we're talking someone that has the capacity to think for themselves. If you have the provide for themselves.
If you have the capacity to think and provide for yourselves, yes, you have a pathway to success.
Do you think that our country provides that opportunity as good as anyone?
Oh, absolutely. In the world, yes, absolutely.
So then, why do you think that some people don't have the opportunity to move locations?
Because I still think there's a part of us that we're not thinking like. I think we got to take ourselves out of our lifestyles where we are right now. Because I think we live, again, we're in a bubble, and we're seeing things for where they are. I work with a group called C5 Texas here locally in Dallas, where kids are living with uncles and aunts and in a 1-bedroom house, and there's 8 people in one room, and it's one child, and the grandmother who's overseeing these, and they can't. There's no moving around. Yeah. There's no getting around. Like I live that way. I've seen people struggle and not have resources. Just go to the doctor. There's a food desert out there. There's nowhere to go get food outside the Stop and Go or 7-Eleven that's down the street. Like, they're not healthy.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So, and I think we're probably saying different things, because I'm not saying everybody has the capacity in this country to make a decision that 30 days from now you're going to move across the country, and you can do that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, hey, if you are unhappy and you do not want to be where you are at,
if you have the proper resources, yes, you can do what you have to do. Yes.
And look, and I use your story. So Randy, prime example, someone that said, hey, listen, I understand my circumstances. I do not want to stay in this, and I don't want the people that I love to be in these circumstances anymore. Right. And I would say he had as fewer resources as anybody in this North Texas bubble growing up, right? But I do believe that there is an opportunity, and it takes mentorship, it takes coaching, it takes people coming from outside the community, going in and pouring into those people, giving them the belief that they can do it. There's all sorts of things that are going into it. But I would disagree in saying, hey, look, just because you are living in South Central LA, you are stuck there.
No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. Look,
and that's how I took it. So and if I'm argumentative about it, that's why I'm like, no. Like, I think there's opportunity if you want to get out of California, you can get out of California.
I think there's opportunity for those like the Randy Bowmans, who's a superstar, sharp kid that ended up getting out, right? Found a way to get out.
I was gonna say he was blessed with a very high intelligence.
And he will tell you in a heartbeat, and he just said it on our show, I was one of the absolute few who ended up getting out of the situation, right? Because of all the other things that are out there. You got to survive. You got to go eat. Here comes the criminality. Here comes the fact that mom hasn't put food on the table in 3 weeks. Guess what?
I'm working.
We're going to go get this food.
Yeah.
And It may not be the right way. It might be in a criminal element, which is the reason why the jail cells are filled with, African and brown, African Americans, because they're trying to fucking survive.
Yeah.
It's like a survival mode. So I don't know, man. There's a part of it that when I look at it and I say, yeah, there is an opportunity to get out of any type of situation that you currently are in, right? But there's also all these other sides of things that don't allow you to get there. There's these walls that are there that are in the way, these obstacles that are in the way. Well, I got to eat. I can't go get food, so I can't think. I can't go to school because I'm fucking hungry. And
that's where people come in.
And that's where they have to come in and hopefully serve, or you find the right.
By the way.
Yeah. And there's no doubt. And I would 100% agree with you. And look, I'm gonna lump people in. This isn't me being stereotypical. This isn't me. But like kids in Frisco, Texas, if they're running a 100-meter dash, they are cruising straight through. And I believe that there are people that have a 100-meter dash, but they've got hurdles every 7 yards. Yep. And they've got to jump over all of those hurdles to get to that 100 yards. It's really hard to compete when you don't have those hurdles. I get it, and I'm acknowledging that. Yeah. And the reason I brought that up, it was more of like, listen, like it's an encouragement. And those that are running a straight 100, guess what? When you get to that 100, turn around and go encourage that guy that's running those hurdles, that he can get over those hurdles and he can get there.
Yeah. Look, I think there's a lot on our minds. Obviously, there's a lot going on. There's a lot we're thinking about. Yeah, you say we're in a bubble, but that doesn't mean we're immune to this stuff. There's a lot going on. There's a lot we're worried about. And what I love is that, and we'll continue this discussion. This is important. People need to be having these discussions, cordial, thought out, with people that they respect. And I think that's the whole point of this. Mm-hmm. That's the whole thing. Darren's coming to this conversation with his own life. Tyler, same thing. Me, myself. We're all coming at this with our different experiences. But because we've taken the time to get to know each other, to build a relationship, we can have these discussions. I don't hate Darren because he thinks differently than me, or Tyler. Right? Just because we disagree. We've taken the time to get to know each other. And that would be my hope and encouragement for people listening, is that you take the time to listen.
Yeah. I hate you whether I agree with you or not.
I hear that, dude. I can't stand your ass.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, anyway.
Love you.
Yeah. I think next week, like I said, there's a lot of issues right now. I think next week we need to have a discussion on the economy.
Yeah.
And where we're headed and the worry. Darren, you said most of us live paycheck to paycheck. I would argue that doesn't really matter your income. Most of us still live paycheck to paycheck. Yeah, true. Because no matter how much you make, you're going to spend that much more typically. So that's a discussion we need to have. That's right. Where are y'all's heads at going forward? Uncertain economic times. Yeah. How can we, better ourselves through that?
And I think you just summed it up really well, Ben, is the point of this conversation. We kind of bounced around and we're here and we're there. Yeah. Is that ultimately, I don't believe, I refuse to believe, and I haven't seen enough evidence out there to prove me wrong. I refuse to believe that there are more bad people than good people.
Yeah.
I refuse to believe that. So I do believe that as we're looking at this perspective, do I think that Joe Biden wants this country to burn? No, I don't. So as we look at it, please just take a step back and have a perspective of, okay, look, they believe something different than me, whether they're not fully educated or, hey, look, maybe they have a life experience that's different or whatever it is, they think differently. But like you said, take the time to hear them out, hear out why. Because the Sanjay Gupta episode with Joe Rogan, if you just jump to a conclusion because he's a CNN medical correspondent and he's the way and he thinks that way and he's wrong and he's an idiot, and if you didn't actually hear why he thinks certain ways, like you wouldn't have the perspective to say, okay, I get it.
And I do highly encourage everybody to go listen to that episode. And also don't just take the clips that people are putting out there for clickbait, because they're taking these very small portions of the conversation. They're acting like that was the entire conversation. Yeah. It never got flagrant. They never were yelling at each other. They were having an honest discussion with each other. And it was just
he did try to clear up the comment about the prescription that he was taking.
Yeah, that was
he did try to clear that.
Well, it's his bosses. He's trying to.
Which one was that?
So CNN said that Joe Rogan was taking horse dewormer.
Yeah.
Because part of the medication has been used on horses, but it's also been used for it's also been used on a ton of people.
Yeah.
But CNN painted it this picture that
It's
he
like
was
there's so
using
many
horse
memes
dewormer.
now. It's hilarious.
the memes are going
it's like
everywhere.
Joe Rogan drinks fluid used as a engine coolant. And it's like water.
Joe Rogan says I think it's a good idea for people to drink water, and then the CNN headline is Joe Rogan recommends engine or fluid commonly used in engine coolant or something like that.
Hey, man.
Anyway, there's a lot of junk out there. You got to be able to decide.
Gotta laugh at it too, man.
But
And
have
that's-
some conversations, some real conversations with people. Get in person.
Yeah.
Love on people. I mean, this is, we're only going to make this through by listening
Yeah.
and getting together. Darren, any final thoughts?
No. Hey, great show, man. Great topics. Man,
Thank you.
The topics are getting better. Thanks, Tyler, for bringing up that topic today instead of Ben. Grant, I appreciate you, brother. Dave, thank you, man.
That was all David.
We spent an hour on our strategy call talking about that, and he took all the credit.
Did he? Oh, I know he did.
Who sent the calendar invite for the
That's a good point. He does have record of it. He does have record of it. Whitney.
That's right.
Yeah, Whitney.
Yeah, that's right. All right, guys, we love you. We appreciate you. Please, if there's anything that you can do for us, it's to share the show. Please recommend this to your friends. If you laughed, if you thought it was good, if you learned something today, please share it with others. That's the biggest thing you can do to help us. Follow us on social media. We're on Instagram at Darren Woodson Show. Follow us on YouTube or subscribe on YouTube, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
The Darren Woodson Show. We're trying to grow this thing. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate your support.
And lastly,
And Tyler's going to close us out.
lastly is all of those are incredible, but if you do none of those, please try to do this. Is have a conversation with the intention of understanding, not winning. Try to understand why someone thinks the way that they do instead of going in trying to convince them or win the argument.